Okay. Okay, so I'm Quinette Cormier, principal intern, and I'm sitting here with some teachers. They look really weird, but it is Halloween. And so this is my focus group, and we're gonna talk about professional development. So we'll go around first and just introduce ourselves.
Okay, I'm Amy Brazil, and I'm an English teacher, 7th grade, McAdams Junior High.
And I'm Elizabeth Barkman. I'm an English teacher, 7th grade, McAdams Junior High.
And I'm Sophia Franco, English teacher, 7th grade, ELA McAdams Junior High.
We're all 7th grade ELA teachers. My name is Brianna Peterson.
Thank you, guys. All right, so we'll just get right started. What is the most powerful and impactful professional development activity you have experienced? We'll start with you, Amy.
Oh, you gotta give me a little think time.
Okay, one take a look. You ready?
Can it be a whole professional development?
Yes.
We had one a while ago, and it was a lady who used to be a teacher, and she came here, and it was about classroom management mostly. And she brought her challenging student with her, and it was just really helpful. Like, it was stuff that I feel like kind of goes with restorative practices. And she always said, don't pick up the rope, like, don't argue with students. And I always remembered that, and I feel like her professional development helped me in my classroom more than any I've ever experienced.
I would agree, and I think it was nice because it was like the actual student that came, that was her problem child, and like he would be late to class on purpose, and he explained why he did all this, and so it kind of was like inside looking out, and we could see from the inside why a child misbehaves, and like why, how to like, maybe not fix it, but like strategies to help do that.
I wish I remembered the name.
Me too. I know, I don't want that.
I can ask someone.
Okay.
I think probably one of the most useful professional developments I went to, it was put on by UTMB Galveston, and they had their PhD students come in and talk to us about students with different backgrounds who had like experienced abusive families and had family members who were doing drugs and things like that. And they talked about the impacts it has on the students, and then why they act certain ways, and how, because if they come from those kind of environments, how psychologically their brains develop differently. And so they talked to us about how the different like serotonin levels and things like that can be affected from an early age growing on as their brains develop. And so those students eventually, when they reach adulthood, actually have a differently chemically formulated brain than an average student who didn't have that kind of type of background and grew up in that kind of situation because of the stress and all that. So that was really useful to me, because that's one of the things I really try to do is figure out kids, because when you can figure out that kind of things, then it kind of lets me know, okay, so we have to take it differently, we have to approach this in a different way, and I have to kind of be mindful that when you come from that type of background, whatever it may be, you are going to act differently, and it's not something always within your control, but it's something we have to. They talk about how you can modify it and learn to just like redirect it, almost like you do with like dyslexia. You can redirect the way the neurons fire in their brains to correct it. So that was really interesting.
Oh, wow, that is
That
interesting.
does sound interesting. I think the whole restorative practices thing that we did at the beginning of the year really helped me understand that they're not doing it just to make you upset, you know, and they're probably doing it because there's something else going on with them. So I feel like being able to understand the kids, and the same thing with the book that we read, being able to understand the kids and slow down, stop, and before you yell and go crazy, understand why and what's going on.
I
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna piggyback on Franco's too, although I haven't had that high of like caliber of training for that. When we took like our the Eduhero ones, it specifically talked about kids with like defiant disability, or I don't know.
Oh,
the exact
oppositional
term.
defiance
Yes.
disorder, ODD.
And it gave you like a bullet list of things, like this is how, you know, to counteract those actions. And sometimes people think that kids are just defiant, and I think that it's eye-opening to see that there are like different types of, like, I don't know if disability is the word for it, but like, you know, there's mental illnesses that kids have behavior issues with. And so it was nice to see that, you know, it's not just behavior issues, that there's actually something going on in their brain. And it was helpful as a teacher to know, like, that's something I need to be aware of.
I think it's interesting that all of our professional developments are really more about building relationships,
Yes.
or
Yes.
like, what am I trying to say?
Classmate.
Management, like not, it's not content based. I thought that was interesting.
So how effective are our Dickinson ISD professional development opportunities? Meaning, when I say effective, do they improve some aspect of your teaching?
I think that some do, and then some just kind of, they're like, we're just making you go to this because we bought this program, or we want to try this out. And sometimes it feels like in our district that it's like, here, this year we're gonna do this, and then we do it for 1 year, and then we're like, no, we're gonna do something different. So like every year is a new thing that we try, like PBIS and Safe and Civil, and then restorative practices. So it's like always something new. Or on content, Avidos, and then Lead Forward, and then Avid, and then so there's always like, this is what you have to do. No, next year this is what you have to do. But there are some that like stay and stick. But a lot of times I feel like they just.
I think it's so overwhelming, like, you have to start picking and choosing what you want. It's almost like you gotta think about them as a toolbox, and you just you may not take anything from it, or you may, like she said, some were kind of, did they just send us to this because they're supposed to? But I also think you have to be open to it. Like, if you go see restorative practices and you're like, I'm not doing this, then you're not gonna get anything from it.
Yeah, I would say being new to the district, the professional development that I've seen here versus other districts I've been in, I haven't really gone to any that I find or anything new or useful for me at my point in my career. But
Go ahead, keep going.
I'm about to go. I think the one person who could really say, because we've been teaching for a while, we kind of know a lot. I think Brianna would be able to say the most if she thought it was helpful because she's brand new. Because for me, I've kind of been there, done that. I haven't received a lot of new information in terms of like, oh, something new, some new teaching strategy or something like that. It's more like, oh, here's a new curriculum. Let me tell you what it is and then go figure it out, which is pretty common. But I mean, just because of where I'm at in my career, I feel like just the training I received so far, which isn't very much from the district, is kind of just like basic, like, hi, here's a book, stand in front of a class, make sure they look at you when they're quiet, you know. It's not really, I haven't been anything to yet that I would say like, wow, I've learned so much. It's kind of just like refresher courses for me at this point.
I feel like for me, being a first year teacher is kind of overwhelming. To go to a training and then go back and do everything that you're supposed to do to prepare for class and be able to take that, put it in your toolbox, take it out and use it in your toolbox, you know? So it's like, especially if they want consistency, but it's really hard to put something in and, oh, that's not working, take it back out, and put a new strategy in and take it back out. So I would say that I'm not as open-minded as I should be when I'm going to different trainings, but it's really hard and it's really overwhelming, so.
Yeah, I agree, it is overwhelming, it's a lot, and they don't always teach you how to, they give it to you, but they don't teach you how to
do anything.
handle it with what you already do.
Yeah, they don't give you a lot of like real world examples. They kind of like tell you like the magical classroom and like perfect land. Like, well, you can just do it. It takes 5 minutes, blah, blah, blah. You're just gonna the kid's just gonna sit down. You're just gonna teach the lesson.
Focus.
And they always talk about like, oh, you should be taking your time. You just set a timer, boom, it's done. You move on. And you're kind of like, well, it never happens that way for me.
What about off-campus, like out-of-district trainings? How effective are those?
Well, for example, I've taken pre-AP in different places, and I understand that pre-AP is different for each person who teaches it, but I took some in Pasadena, and that was the foundation of the week, and that was pretty good because that was the first time I'd ever taken it. But then I took a class at Rice, which I'd like to do it again because I know that this doesn't always happen, but she basically was like, hi, welcome to the week-long training, here's my zip drive, and then you can download it, and we didn't have a computer, so it wasn't very effective for us, but she just kind of said like, well, here's my Harry Potter classroom, this is what I do in my classroom, and she never really taught the strategies. She just said like, here it is, and then this is what we're gonna do, and it was more about her than the strategies. And so, you know, like sometimes I feel like they're really good, and then sometimes, I guess it just depends on the teacher and how their teaching style is as well, so. And some people might love the sit and get and take it all, and then, but I'm kind of like a hands-on person, like y'all were saying, that I wanna see how it should be implemented, and I wanna see like, how it's gonna work, and sorry for talking a lot. I just remembered another professional development that I really liked, that I thought was effective for first year teachers and old teachers as well, because we had a professor come in and she would teach the class, like teach our class. And so, you know how like when you think, oh, this isn't gonna work for my 5th period, she would actually go in and like with the not problem children, but like children you have issues with, and she would do it. So it was nice to see like, oh, okay, this can be done in my class. So it was like an action lab. And so I thought that was pretty cool, because you can always sit in a chair and say like, oh, my kids can't do it, but then you were actually seeing my kids can do it, and here's how you do it. And so it was really nice to see that as well.
So what about our cohort? That's our PD, our campus PD. They come here and they give us the training. Does it impact your teaching?
No.
Why?
I feel like a lot of it is kind of just random information. I don't feel like it builds on itself. I don't feel like anything is cohesive. I feel like, hi, we're coming in, let's just look at this paper. I'm assuming you already know everything. I'm just gonna talk like you know what I'm talking about, not explain anything and just move on. And so,
Can you be more specific?
So this is my first year in 7th grade, and they pulled out those STAR papers, and she's like, look, okay, so you can see this is like a great paper, right? Okay, so it just clicked on to the next one. I was like, I don't know what made that a good paper. I don't know. And then she, they just really, I feel like it's very rushed. I feel like there's nothing explained. I feel like it's kind of like, oh, well, you already should know all of what I'm talking about. I'm just kind of refreshing you on it. And so when it's the cohort, I feel like, it's only like 10 people in there, 15 people, you should be able to explain more. It's not like you have a huge crowd of people. And then I feel like a lot of the stuff, it's like when we had that one about the coding, and then we never did anything with it again. It just like kind of fell off the face of the planet. And I don't really feel like that had anything to do with anything. I felt like it was kind of like a useless time. And I was like,
Well, I was under the impression that it was gonna be a reading, writing workshop.
yeah.
And I haven't yet seen the connection of reading and writing.
And when I hear workshop is like us working. Workshop is a hands-on, I do, we do, you do. There's no we do, you do. It's all I do, blah, blah, blah. I mean, yeah, we made those posters. That was like the one time I had any idea of what we were really, felt like I connected to it. The rest of the time, I just listened to her talk and kind of just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna find out later from somebody else, or, look that up later to figure it out. When I think of a cohort and a workshop, I feel like we're gonna sit down, we're gonna put ourselves in it, you're gonna break it down for me, show me how to use it. It's really gonna be a hands-on thing when you say workshop. But this is more like you stand in front of me and just regurgitate information and click on a slideshow and leave. So
And I feel like, I'm gonna go back to what Brianna said, it's overwhelming, like, it's once a month, we do pre-AP too, so it's like we have 2 a month, plus every Tuesday we stay, and so it's like, that's really professional development as well. And I feel like it can be very overwhelming to have all of these things to do, and like, I don't know about y'all, but on a Thursday at
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock,
Yes.
my brain is like, I'm
Fried.
fried. I
Yeah.
can't always be as positive or open to something like that
Yeah.
as I would like to be. Like, it's just a lot.
And I feel like what we do on Tuesdays, I get more out of that. Or just when we come together and sit and talk to each other, we have real conversations. And we really talk about what we're implementing, how did it look in your room, blah, blah, blah. Because that's one of the things, it's like we've all been talking about, you never say how it looks in the classroom. You never connect it back to the classroom. You just kind of like, oh, let's talk about this thing in the magical land of whatever you're talking about. And then like, okay, now go do it, bye. And I want something from you in a month from now. And you're kind of just like, thank you. So just, I feel like when we actually hands-on and we talk together, and like I sit down with teachers and we talk, I feel like I get a lot more than when I go to that. Because I feel like that should be like what's happening here, but that's just some magical land over there.
Okay.
I did like the essay training though. The rest of them were kind of just like, so what? Like the read aloud thing where we had to you know,
And
do
then
all of
with
that
the,
stuff. But the essay thing did help me because I'm coming from college, so I'm reading higher level, you know, essays like this. And so I was able to see, like, hey, what does a 5 look like? Or what does a 0 look like? What does a 2 look like? You know, so I feel like that one helped me. And for her to be able to say, well, hey, this one wasn't right because such and such, I didn't have a main idea or something like that. So that one did help me, but the rest,
So Benford, we're talking about professional development. Welcome, Ms. Benford. 7th grade ELA. We're talking about professional development that we've had this year in the district, and if it's been like, had an impact on your teaching. Has it been effective?
like, are you getting something from it or not?
I agree with, I think the essay one was helpful as someone who was not teaching in Texas before and I didn't know what they were looking for. I'm used to Common Core, what you're looking for. That was helpful, but some of them I don't feel like they've really had any application at all.
Can you explain, give an example?
For instance, we had that one where we were looking at the picture books and like, yes, that was nice. I mean, like, it was fun to use them in the lessons that we have, but it was a lot of time for that. And like the one where they were teaching us that new coding for fluency,
Coding comes up again.
Okay.
Running
This, we've
records,
already discussed
yes.
this. Yes, so I guess I know that I kind of jumped in at the end of that conversation, but the conversation's about like a different world over here. I do feel that. I think that what we're doing should be more focused on what we really need every day.
Well, and if we're a cohort, like I get the idea of including a lot of people, but to me, a cohort is like a small group of people. And I feel like if you're going to make it valuable, it should be like a cohort for 6th grade and a cohort
Yeah.
for 7th grade and a cohort for 8th grade. Because what we all do together is important because of vertical teaming, but like in the grand scheme of things, day to day, I'm not gonna talk to 6th grade and say like, hey, are you doing this? As much as I'm gonna talk to my team, which is more valuable and more powerful than being with a whole big group of people, so I
Yeah,
think.
especially when we do like those projects and it's like, oh, look at this, take a picture, you could use it. And I'm like, I can't use any of it. It's mostly all 6th grade stuff. And I'm like, I can't do anything with that poster, if not reading that story.
I will say how they've switched pre-AP this year is a lot better because even last time, like Jennifer showed us one thing and then we had time to like talk to each other about it. And that was better professional development than we've had for pre-AP in years. Like our pre-AP has been a very negative experience staying after once a month for. And so now I feel like that has actually changed to be a little more helpful.
So do y'all feel like we have adequate opportunities for professional development?
I feel like this is the least amount of professional development I've ever had. Like at most campuses, I'm going to professional development at least every 3 months. I'm being sent somewhere, doing
And,
something,
like,
someone's coming.
During school or after school?
During or after school, I get sent during school, like they flew me to Dallas several times, 3 or 4 times for trainings. We went and we did HISD trainings, you know, we paired up with them, we did trainings with other schools, we met at other campuses and we did group trainings with other grade levels at other campuses, and we would have, some of them were after school, some of them were like Saturday morning, but you got paid to be there and they provided food and everything. And then some of them it was during the school day and you were just gone and they got you subs and we were all meeting at another campus for the day and we did workshops and it was like a full-on workshop. And I think it made a big difference because our campus went from an F school to an A school in 1 year.
Oh, wow.
On STAR, we had like a 98% passing rate.
Oh, wow.
But they put they poured in money because they were an F school for a while and they finally got to a D, and so we were on the list, you know, so they like just poured into it, but it made we jumped all the way from a D to an A school.
I mean, I feel like we don't have that kind of money, but I feel like we do have a lot of opportunities. If you voice that there's a specific thing you would like to go to, I feel like they do try to accommodate you, especially more towards the end of the year and the summer. Like, they're gonna steer ours towards that time, because we have to have our trade days, and they don't really want you out of the classroom as much. But I feel like I don't know, would you agree, since we've...
Yeah, and I mean,
there's...
I think that there's training, well, I feel like every teacher goes through a training that is either super valuable or super, like, time wasting. Like, I don't think we're the only ones that feel
Yeah.
that, but, I mean, I definitely think that there are, like, valuable ones. Like, for example, like the Lead Forward one now, that it's like not as, it's more planning this year, I kinda wish someone had, you know, like a new teacher would go to that Lead Forward, cause it was very beneficial the first year. And it's beneficial the second year, but again, it's kinda like a cohort, but there's only like one, there's no other seventh grade teacher there, you know, so like what, I mean, it's either splitting between you or Kanisha, so like, to me, that's not really a cohort again, because it's tons of grade levels, but I do believe there are good trainings, just sadly, we don't get absences for them.
Well, what's one area that professional development has been beneficial
For this district
for this district?
I mean, I think I've learned a lot, not, when I say like writing in general, I don't mean Abydos, but other writing cohorts or professional developments. I mean, I feel like I would not know what I know now without those, because no one else taught me those besides other teachers. But I feel like calibration, I mean, we've calibrated 45,000 times, so it's like now I know so much more when I look at an essay than I used to. And I would not have been like that if I didn't have that time to learn all these strategies. And so I feel like writing, I've become stronger because of it.
I think that Abydos has a good grammar week as well. I wouldn't necessarily, I think there are good parts of the reading and the writing week, but, 3 weeks and the reading week. But, so like, it's like a pick and choose. I wish you could, you know. But for the most part, I think the training is good, as long as they keep they continue the ideas throughout the years. They don't just like do it one year and be like, no.
Because that's when it becomes overwhelming. When you're giving me something new every year to learn instead of building on what I know. I think that's when I shut down.
One area of professional development has been beneficial.
I mean, new, so I don't have as much to go on. I did think that the parts of Abydos I really liked, especially with some of the particular strategies that they gave for writing themselves, such as not necessarily, like listing didn't really go so well, but my kids really liked writing roulette. So things like that were engaging the kids, because at this point I just want things that the kids are going to actually enjoy doing. So that was really beneficial. Understanding the STAR scores was very beneficial. So I really liked those two. I'd like more like that.
I didn't go to the Abydos training. I mean, that UTMB one, I really like that one. That one was put on through the SPED department. And a few of the SPED ones that I went to, I thought were pretty beneficial. I don't know if I would say anything related to content, because it was just like new teacher. So it was just kind of like, hi, here's what we do here. So it wasn't really anything like full of substance. So I haven't really been into anything for the content. So I wouldn't be able to say on that, but some of the SPED ones, I really like that UTMB one. And some of the SPED ones that talked about like students with certain types of behaviors and things like that, I find those useful.
Can I just say our PLCs? Because I've been waiting to go to a training to where I'm actually learning something about what I have to teach, and I haven't been to one yet. So I feel like our PLCs is probably the most helpful thing to me as far as being a new teacher.
Yeah, I would agree.
Well, like I said, or not like I said, like Elizabeth said, like I feel like if you really want something, you gotta like tell them, like I need help in this specific area, and how can I do it? Or like maybe find a training and be like, this is what I wanna go to.
Or just go knock on one of y'all's doors. Hey.
That too.
Yeah, because it can be hard, because I've asked for specific trainings and they said they don't provide trainings for like ESL or anything like that. Said that that's not something people request, and so they don't provide trainings for that, and they just gave me a book.
I have a book.
Yeah, I feel like here, it's more like it has to be specific to your content, I guess. Like it's,
Well, I would rather go to a training and it be specific to
Yeah.
what we're teaching, as opposed to the dog walked down the street.
Oh yeah, the little, yeah.
You know? Just like
Yeah, and I feel like ESL
Teach me
is
how to
pretty useful.
poetry or something. I have no idea.
Yeah, because I wanted ESL
I got
for
you.
ELA teachers. Something for that, where there was people with large majority of ESL students within an ELA gen ed classroom.
and like a training for that on strategies to work with them, but that's not something they do.
But what is something that we would like to see training on? Like that we need, we feel like this is a need, this is our need in our classroom, and we need a training on this.
I think that ESL one for me, because, and then also a training that really focuses on large gaps on students, because I have kids who read, you know, on a first grade level in a room with a kid who reads seventh grade level. You know, so that's kind of like, I have kids who write, you know, sight words and that's all they got, and in a room with kids who can write an essay. So, I mean, it's really hard to teach at a seventh grade level, but meet that kid all the way down here and somehow get them all the way up here. And I wish it was like I know it's a lot of work and something, but I wish someone could, you know, I need a refresher on that and like ways to do that when it comes to middle school, because middle school kids are very different from elementary kids. Elementary kids, they're focused, they're eager to please, so it's easier to work with those types of students because their brains just like soak up, they're like little sponges on everything, and they're just excited, they want to do it. But middle school kids, it's like, oh, I don't know how to read, I'm just gonna say. So I wish there was some way, a training, not only to motivate them, but like what would be in materials that would be interesting to someone in seventh grade reading on a first grade level. Like, where could I find that? Where could I find strategies that would be engaging for someone at that age level who's reading on that level, you know, something, you know.
I definitely think the action labs, like going into classes and watching people teach, definitely is beneficial. Or like someone that is outside of the district teaching a lesson in class, and then we watch it and then we go back and put that into our lesson plan and try it. I feel like those help me the most because I can see it, the application and the kids' reactions and things like that, and so.
I agree 100%. I feel like, I mean, I'm not opposed to like normal professional developments, but I feel like with me, I'll be like, this is great, like this is good strategies, or this is a good thing, and then I get here and it's all this other stuff that's on top of me, so I'm like, okay, that's gonna be put to the side, even if it's amazing. But I feel like when we do action labs or just going into another teacher's room and watching them, I have learned more than I did anywhere else. That's where I've learned everything.
Yeah, I wanna jump on that too, because that one time I was able to go watch Maze, even though like it was something completely different, I still have two specific things that I remember from that room that I've been using since then that have been helpful. And I remember thinking, well, I wish I could just watch the people who've been here on my level, so like, okay, I know we're teaching the same thing, so how are they doing it? I think that would be really helpful to be able to go watch someone else, and I know then you have to have someone in your room, but that would be really helpful.
Yeah. I agree. I think watching Quinn has helped me. Like, I think I teach first period, and then she went back door and she taught after I did. I'm like, oh yeah, I should have did that. Oh yeah, I should have did that. But I think it would be really helpful for me to learn how to bridge my entire classroom. I think I would rather have a training on that because I have some kids that really struggle with writing. I found myself just going around the room like a chicken with my head cut off today because I have a kid that's writing and they kind of just don't know where to start, and I can guide them. But then I have a kid that I have to literally sit down with and say, okay, look at this. Okay, you know.
Well, like, you're not alone. Like, there are things that I'm like, dang it, why didn't I do that? Like, I should have, like, why didn't I think about that? So I feel like that's everyone too, you know, like, or like, wow, that was a good idea, I should have done that. Or a kid does it, I'm like, ooh, okay, I'm putting on my lesson for the next period. Thank you.
So I'm gonna ask this question, I know the answer to it, but how often do teachers meet, plan, reflect, and work together?
Daily?
Yeah, all the time.
What barriers exist to prevent teachers from meeting, planning, reflecting, and working together?
Administrative.
Yeah.
Data.
Meetings. The confusion on what is actually happening or not happening, or what is expected or not expected, or how we're doing this, tomorrow we're doing this. I think the hardest thing for me is just to sit down and do that. It's like we have, like they said, we have so much other stuff, and then I'm just constantly like, yeah, she's talking about her class, and she's talking about her class, but I'm like, oh, my class is all like a completely different animal. So it's like someone's talking about something like, wow, that's so great, but I could never do that in my class. So what's the next option? You know, there's not enough hours in the day for us to just sit down and talk about it. Because I'm sure she could tell me how to do it in my class. There's just not enough time.
I think it's the biggest thing is time.
Yeah, we just don't have enough time, you know, to just sit there and just explain everything to someone else, you know.
Is it scheduled time? Because you take time,
Mm-hmm.
but is it just scheduled time to do it?
It's scheduled time, and then I just feel like even though we have like our planning period, I feel like we're all trying to figure out what we need to be doing, you know, we're all doing something with another student, cleaning up our room,
Arts.
printing an
Parent
art,
contact.
finding somebody, calling a parent, you know, and I get this is the way it is, that's the nature of the beast, you know, especially at middle school with the way the kids are here at junior high levels. It's, you know, just coming from like where I came from before, we had a lot more time to talk, with teachers, even though I had the same like planning period time. I mean, our planning period was 55. Yeah, I had a 70-minute planning period. But I just felt like the way it was there, it was just a lot more relaxed because there wasn't any confusion about anything. It was very like, we're doing this and it never changed, you know, this was the way it is expectation. And so here we have a lot of changes going on, we have a lot of new people, so we're all confused because you know, and I've been sitting there for a while, so you know, I know what's happening. So I feel like it's just, we're all new, we're all confused. They've got a new curriculum too, so that it's like, they've never seen that before. So I feel like nobody knows anything, and that's what happens, you know, the first year you change a curriculum. But I feel like because of that, all that anxiety, all of that, I don't feel like I can go during that class period and be like, hey, what do you do? She's like, no, I got a billion other things I have to do. So it's just, you know, it's kind of the luck of the draw. It's the first year that for us and the first year with the new curriculum.
Yeah, I feel like this year is just a weird, it's
Yeah.
a weird year because we have new teaks, new curriculum, new way to do lesson
Yeah.
plans. So nobody is really,
No, there's not that one
Tired,
person
it's
who's
like-
like, oh, well, it's okay, we're gonna do, this is how we do it. You know, there's no, this is how we do it.
I
We don't
get,
know
like,
how
I can
to.
get those lesson plans, because they always say, oh, if you'd work really hard on your lesson plans,
You
then
save
could
them,
use them.
yeah.
We've never been able to, like, we've worked hard on them and then we've never been able to use it because
First
they
year
changed it.
eduphoria.
Yeah, that's what they
It's
said,
so
that was the thing,
amazing.
like,
You
you'll
can
just use
Put
them.
your lesson plans right back in next year.
It's
Like, what
no.
happens? Oh, because
They
we
change
changed
it,
everything.
And every year it has changed, like the way they want it done has changed.
Or the lesson plan format, just even that.
One time we had professional development called lesson plan protocol. Have y'all heard of that?
No.
So it was like, they would print Franco's lesson plans and we would all sit for the entire class, our entire conference period, and we would go through it and she would explain it and we couldn't say anything. And then we would talk without her saying anything. And it was just
About
looking
her
at, it was
lesson.
literally just lesson plans. So it was like the focus was, do you have your timestamps? Do you have this?
Oh,
And
so you're like critiquing each other.
Yes.
Oh,
It
that's
was
not very nice.
hard.
I know,
Well,
it was
and
very
it's
difficult.
also a whole class period, like, that's your time to do all of those things, plus sometimes you just need to sit there for like 5 minutes.
Yes, I was thinking, you need a breather sometimes, especially after like the, yeah. So I just think it's one of those things, this is the first year, nobody knows anything. We don't have that person we can turn and be like, hey, how'd you do it last year? There's no, how'd you do it last year?
And there's no last year to look back to
Yeah.
because everything's new.
Everything's new. And yeah, and so like, I think about something, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so worked up, why? And I'm like, I'm just like, I need to calm down. If nobody knows it, because I just, you know, I've gotten in the lull of where I was at another school where I'm just like, oh yeah, that's what we do. I just pull it out my bag. Somebody said, oh, okay, here you go. You know, you're just relaxed, it's whatever. But this year, you know, everyone's on edge because nobody knows anything.
So if you were to give feedback to the district regarding PD, the district, what would it be?
Meaningful PD. Talk to teachers and ask us what we want. Don't ask somebody who hasn't been in the classroom for 45 years to tell me what to do. Because what you're saying, these are not the same kids, this is not the same expectations, not the same teaks, not the same curriculum. The kids that you were teaching were very different from the kids we have. And so when I sit there and listen to someone who's like, oh, well, you should have just done this and what it works, I'm like, you come in my room, let you do that and let's see how great that works out for you, because I'm gonna tell you, they're gonna eat you alive, you know. So that for me is, I wish it was people who were more informed and who took our opinions, because teachers are like, oh, well, we don't want this, and they get frustrated at you. I've been at a professional event where a person was telling us this, and several teachers were like, no, and we all told the person giving the thing, no, that's not going to work, please tell us something else, because this person was giving us information that was like way off the mark, that was extremely outdated, and the person started screaming at us and left the PD. And then someone else came in and was like, how dare you talk about that? And we're like, you don't understand. Because it was someone who came from a different district that was not at all like ours. We were a Title I district, and we had a very different type of students and a very different culture going on. And this person came in as if we had dream angel students. She's like, well, at my school, everyone is an A student. Everyone, their parents are here. It was like matching. She was like rubbing in our faces and like, why don't you have that? You need to do this. And we're like, no, that's not going to work. If I go say that to a parent, I'm never going to hear from that parent again. You know, if I do that to a kid, they're just going to look at me like I'm crazy. And that person was just extremely offended and was like, how dare you? You know, I've been in education for 75 years. And I'm like, right, 75 years ago, you know, you were not in the classroom for like 40 years. You shouldn't be saying anything to me unless you are informed. Because I don't mind how old you are, but you need to be informed. And that's the biggest thing, is they're not informed about the information they give us.
I think that's just a pattern in general, though. Everyone who's giving PD, they're not in the classroom.
Yeah, they haven't been for like 20 years, and you're like, why would you give me any information? I mean, just 10 years from now, when I was a kid in class, that kind of stuff would never have been happening. You know, the kids were on different levels. You know, you wouldn't have someone in your classroom on a first grade reading level in 7th grade because there was no child left behind law at the time. They would have been held back, you know, until they met their standards. But now we have kids just being moved along because of the no child left behind law. So now I have a kid, 7th grade on a first grade reading level, who is not under any sort of accommodation or anything. They're just here because they've been held back already and failed and they got moved on. So it's very different.
I think more action labs and just to be respectful of teachers' time too.
I was gonna say, come in here and just sit down and
Really
Yeah,
seeing.
do
And
what
really
you're saying
see.
in here for us so that we can see what
Yeah,
you're
like
saying
seeing it
really
in
works.
action, like,
Like she
okay,
said, the
yeah,
action lab.
sell it to us. you
Yeah,
know,
if
don't-
you're gonna say that,
Yeah,
come prove
if you-
it in here.
Yeah,
If you were giving feedback to Ms. Joseph regarding PD, what would it be?
it's great.
Yeah,
It's so informative. I learned so much.
I think mine would be the same, and also to,
Can they survey us, you know, and take our
they
survey?
do,
numbers?
they do.
But like, do they do anything with
Because
it?
I
think
remember,
they do.
I remember complaining about one of the things that I went to. I think it was the first teacher thing. And I was like, it was just so dumb. He talked about this last time. We talked about this the entire first week of training. And then you asked me, well, what'd you put on the survey? I've been like, all 5s.
They do look at the
I
survey.
put all 5s.
Like
so
Vogel looks at
I
the
guess it
surveys.
was good.
So if it looks like it's not good, she's gonna ask whoever. Like, I feel like that's where you can really voice your opinion. But that's what most of
But
us
yeah,
do.
because it's on
Like,
Spirit, you
right.
just wanna get the certificate, you know,
Mhm.
you just click it down. Yeah, I mean, cause like, a lot of trainings I've been to, they give you a piece of paper right there, and they ask you to leave comments and rate the person right there, and then you put it in a box and you write. So I feel like when I'm right there, and I'm like heated, I'm like, you did this terrible, blah, blah, blah. You know, and I give like a true meeting where I'm like at home, I'm like, and it's like, whatever. So, you know,
I think for me, with specifically to her, would also be, she puts a lot of emphasis on us not being in the classroom, and I understand that. But if I am going to something that's going to help, then don't make me feel guilty about that in that way. You know what I mean? Like, that shouldn't be stopping us from learning something more.
so you get an absence if you go to PD?
Well, I mean, no, it's like a professional day, but I'm saying,
We have to get it approved.
and
Yeah.
also if you are like sick, which happens to everybody, or like she really looks at that, and so if it's like if you're out too many times, then that's, you know, if it's been a month and you've been out twice, then she's kind of like, I don't want you to go to that. When I feel like that shouldn't be the,
The criteria on whether or not you
I mean,
should
we
be
can't,
attending.
I mean, we have, you know, I'm not gonna get on that.
On that train.
And I debated on saying this, but like sometimes at the beginning of the year, I feel like they don't stress enough on the things they need to stress about. And like, for example, I know I'm kind of a hypocrite because I do it in class, but like I'm not the type of person who loves the brain breaks or like get up and talk to a neighbor and or like let's make a tinker toy, you need a brain break, make a tinker toy, or like, you know, the things that we've done. And like sometimes I kind of wish that instead of doing those things, like, yeah, do it for like 5 minutes and get to know you, but like use some of that time to be able to use in the classroom to like implement what we're taught into your lesson plans, or like being able to work on things like that in your classroom or with your department instead of doing like, I mean, I think it's cute and I think that some teachers like it,
What's
but
the
to me,
secret toy?
you know, like one time they went to the Think conference for Lead Forward and they got to make like balloon hats, or they made like remember
Yeah,
there's,
and
like,
they
a
told us to
hula
put
hoop.
the note inside the balloon and blow it up and throw it around the room and open it.
It's just like
That was the
fun
best, 'cause everyone
activities
spit,
that have
wasn't it?
nothing to do with professional development, but like one time we had to have a
Maybe, like,
team and we all
bonding
had to,
stuff?
yes, team bonding.
Yeah.
But professional development time during it. Remember we had to have basketball, everyone had to shoot basketball, then we had to go and do a hula hoop.
But I think that's more team bonding, but you're saying you don't like when they do it.
I would rather use that time to be like implementing what I was taught in the classroom, like in my lesson plans. I don't know, maybe I got off topic.
I understand what you're saying. I just remember that balloon thing.
Yeah,
That's
that
why.
was gross. I didn't like
Why
that.
don't I remember that?
But the whole time I was thinking, I don't know how to teach English. This is not gonna help.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you guys like to share?
Well, yes, but you have.
If you become a principal, don't forget about the little people. Don't forget about us, because I will come and find you, and I will remind you.
Thank you guys for your insight and I appreciate your time. We went over.